So it is my pleasure to introduce our presenters, Shannon Stanners and Shanna Train. Shannon and Shanna are speech language pathologists on the outpatient neurotherapy team at the Regional Rehab Center at Hamilton Health Sciences. They provide assessment and treatment for individuals with stroke and ABI. Shannon began working in this outpatient role in 2004, and Shanna joined the Regional Rehab Neuro team in 2020. They both have a passion for promoting and teaching strategies to enhance effective communications for individuals living with aphasia, apraxia, and dysarthria. They actively advocate for ongoing education for healthcare professionals to foster communicative access and facilitate patient involvement in decisions regarding their care. And with that, I'll turn it over to Shannon and Shanna.
Great. Thank you, Tina. All right, so you see us in full screen. I'm Shannon Stanners.
And I'm Shanna Train.
And we are very excited that you have taken the time to join us either in person today or by video, watching it later. So thank you. Our goal by the end of today is that you will be able to more effectively or have a review of what you're already doing to enhance your communication with individuals with aphasia, to help them to better be able to express themselves and to understand the message that you are sharing with them. Okay, so we'll go back to our share screen. All right. So as per Stroke 101, our objectives: explain the implications of communication impairments on participation and engagement in therapy and activities. Demonstrate strategies to enhance communication when interacting with those who have communication deficits, such as utilizing supported conversation for patients with aphasia. And describe the impact of the environment on communication and provide strategies to maximize successful communicative interactions. So to start, what is aphasia? So aphasia is a language impairment, and language has the modalities of getting the message out, expressing ourselves, and getting the message in. So expressing ourselves is either through speech, verbal expression, so being able to say it, or through written expression. And written expression is, well, printing it out, cursive writing, but also texting and typing. Getting the information in is either through understanding what you are hearing, like the meaning of the words that you're hearing, which includes also understanding what you're saying as well, or understanding printed words, so what you're reading. Aphasia can affect any or all of those, and there's more severe cases called global aphasia where they're all severely impacted, and then we work with patients that have just deficits in certain areas. Aphasia affects approximately 1/3 of patients who survive stroke, and it's estimated in Canada right now there are 100,000 Canadians living with chronic aphasia, and every year approximately 12,000 to 13,000 more Canadians join that number. So we are very grateful for staff and caregivers who learn how to effectively communicate with these individuals, because we make a huge difference in their lives, and by doing this, it helps to enhance our lives as well, being able to better communicate with them. Before we begin, we have 3 true or false questions. Tina's going to put up a poll, and we do ask that you answer all 3 questions at the same time there. So question 1 is, my patient with aphasia did what I asked, so that means they understood what I said. They answered yes, so they mean yes. And aphasia affects more than communication. So if you could please take just a moment. It's anonymous, so we will never know who said what, but we just want to kind of get a sense right now for where people are at, and then you will see these again later in the presentation. If we're not totally verbose, we'll be able to do the poll again. If not, we'll just skim over it. Okay, so again, it was number, okay, and then Tina, do you have? Great. So patient with aphasia did what I asked. That means they understood false. Great. All right. So we might not need to re-poll that one at the end. Good job. So we're not going to go into total detail. If we are successful in our mission, you will have your answers validated by us going forward here today.
Okay, so in most cases, aphasia is caused by strokes involving the left hemisphere of the brain, with more extensive damage typically being associated with more severe aphasia. But every patient has a different presentation based on the type of stroke, the location, and the extent of damage. For the purposes of our session today, the focus will not be on neuroanatomy of speech and language. Our focus will be on supportive communication. But just for a bit of background, we'll take a brief moment to acknowledge this diagram here. This is a classic model of the brain regions thought to be involved in speech and language. So you may have heard of Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Broca's area there in purple is thought to be responsible for producing speech, and Wernicke's area in green is thought to be responsible for understanding and processing speech. But over the last decade, there's been a lot of research coming to light, and we're learning through neuroimaging studies that neuroanatomy and neurophysiology of speech and language goes far beyond this classic simplified diagram. It involves much more complex interactions between neural pathways in several different brain regions. We've linked some resources at the end of our presentation for if you'd like to learn some more. Aphasia is more than just a language impairment. It is a communication impairment that impacts identity and relationships due to difficulties speaking, understanding, reading, and writing. So we have a quote here from Dr. Simmons-Mackey that nicely summarizes that concept. Aphasia disrupts communication, the core of our ability to develop and maintain relationships, take part in home and community events, and project a public image of who we are. Communication is essential to almost all of our activities of daily living. Without the ability to participate in conversation, every relationship, every life role, and almost every life activity is at huge risk. When adding problems with reading and writing, the impact is devastating. This results not only in barriers to accessing healthcare services and information, but also inevitably leads to a loss of self-esteem and a profound sense of social isolation. People with aphasia know more than they're able to say. They're competent adults who want to communicate. They want to be spoken to and not about, and they often feel very frustrated.
So we're going to share with you Michelle's story. So Michelle is one of our current patients here at Regional Rehab in Hamilton. Michelle has very kindly given her informed consent to be on video for you from one of her treatment sessions recently. In this video, she's speaking with our recent student from McMaster, Tasia, who's having a really good conversation with Michelle and allowing Michelle to talk about her experiences on the inpatient unit. I will make a note. The vast majority of Michelle's experiences on the inpatient unit are extremely positive, but she did share this one, which we want to share with you as to the impact that we can make as a communication partner.
So when today it was talk all the time, I couldn't talk much, but it was hard that I had, if somebody wouldn't talk to me and I needed to do something and I couldn't say something, they didn't have anything. They wouldn't even say anything, and I would say like and they wouldn't say anything. It would be get my medication. They wouldn't even say anything. Get it quick, get it in, and they're out. And then I'm like, but like I'm crying because what's going on? Like I need for something, bathrooms, you never know. And I need something, and it's really hard if they're not there, and they're not even there that I to be them at all. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's not good at all. It was really hard. That's the one that I want to say the biggest one is because I can't talk at all. You need somebody there that says, "Hi, how are you? What do you need? Do you need something?" This time it was nothing. It was, let me in, it out.
Yeah.
And I'm like crying. I'm going, I need something. Like, I need something. And it was really hard. It was a really bad time. It was a really
Okay, so that is an example of Michelle now, who's able to express herself much better than when she was on the inpatient unit. Originally, she was profoundly impacted by verbal expression, so she wasn't able to express herself through speech, writing, or reading, even though she had higher level auditory comprehension. Aphasia is frustrating, so we want you to take a moment, in just a moment, imagine that you have aphasia. Imagine knowing what you want to say, but you aren't able to say it despite being as intelligent as you already are. You aren't able to write down the words. The words you hear don't make sense to you. Imprinted words look like a foreign language or a global language that you aren't able to speak or write. Going further than that, if you put yourself in the imagination of being lucky enough to go on a family trip, but en route to your destination, and for purposes of explanation, I'll say my family and I were going to the Philippines. We do not speak Tagalog or Ilocano, but we're very excited about our trip. But en route, there's a medical emergency with one of my loved ones. And when we land in the Philippines, the emergency team meeting us at the airplane are trying to get information from me. And I am desperately wanting to communicate about my loved one, and I'm scared and I'm anxious, and I have lots of words to say. I'm intelligent and I want to help and express, but I'm not able to because I don't speak Tagalog. I'm not understanding the Tagalog that they're speaking with me. They're not able to understand my English. And when I write in English, that's not helping, nor can I read Tagalog. So I would be limited to gestures, facial expression. They would know I'm feeling frantic by looking at me and my tone of voice, like my prosody, my pitch, my inflection. I could draw, I could point, but that would be a very scary situation. And that is what happens to our patients who are living with aphasia, especially in the early stages when they're scared and really trying desperately to communicate. The harder somebody with aphasia tries to be able to express themselves, the worse it is. So embarrassment, anxiety, stress, frustration, fatigue, pain, even thirst, they also compete with the neural pathways that are working to help express oneself. So as they are also like multitasking with these other competing thoughts and efforts, their speech is going to go down. So we typically hear, oh, I have more trouble at night. I haven't been sleeping well. My speech is down. We definitely see and hear when patients are anxious or frustrated, they do have a lot more difficulty expressing themselves, but also understanding what we're saying if they also have receptive aphasia. We often describe this as a teeter-totter effect. So in speech pathology, you'll see us going around with a pen doing the teeter-totter, which is our gesture to patients to let them know too that they're getting, that their frustration levels going up. So that's also contributing to their speech deficits. Commonly heard from our patients with aphasia, I can't, I'm stupid. Shanna had a new patient yesterday that was saying they felt stupid. I don't know. A new patient I had Friday was talking about they can't remember. We give lots of education that while aphasia can also be at the same time as a cognitive impairment based on the site of the stroke and how large the stroke was, if it was the first stroke, aphasia itself does not impact cognition, including memory. And so these patients, it's not that they can't remember, it's that they can't access what they know. And so we say, I know you know, difficulty accessing the words. The other thing is a quick review is that that limbic system with the emotions, oh my goodness, it is entrenched in so many neural pathways. And those pathways have free-flowing emotional words at times, so that swear words can come out. Yes, people can be frustrated and they mean to swear, but very often they don't mean to swear, but those words are more free-flowing based on the neural plasticity of the brain, and that amygdala is linked in so many pathways that those words can come out smoother, easier, and more spontaneously. Potential challenges, just to review: difficulty understanding what people are saying or asking, difficulty answering and asking questions, verbal or written, difficulty communicating one's basic needs, thoughts, and feelings, which has an effect of altered relationships, altered roles, perceived incompetence, and frustration, depression, feelings of helplessness.
And so how about for us, the team, as healthcare providers? Just try to imagine, if you've never been in a situation communicating with a patient with aphasia, how you might feel if you're having difficulty communicating, if you're having difficulty understanding their message to you, or if you have been in a situation like that, try to remember what it was like. So take a moment to just think of some words or phrases that would describe how you would feel in the interaction if you were having a difficult time communicating.
Erin has raised her hand. Erin, do you want to unmute? Okay. Maybe not.
That's okay. So from previous presentations, these are some of the words that have come up: heartbreaking, upsetting, frustrating. And it's natural to feel helpless because as healthcare providers, we really want to be able to help. And the teeter-totter effect comes into play here as well for us. The harder we try, it might result in us being rushed or feeling stressed and frustrated. Our rate of speech might be faster, we might be distracted. And all of these things will impact the person with aphasia and their ability to communicate. If they feel that sense of pressure from us, a time pressure, or if they can feel that we're frustrated or stressed, that will negatively impact their ability to express themselves. So some of the potential challenges for healthcare professionals is difficulty conveying important information to the patient, maybe difficulty understanding what they're trying to say to you or what they're trying to ask. It's hard to know if their responses are accurate, and it could also feel time-consuming, frustrating, stressful for yourself as well as the patient. Many best practice standards in healthcare require that we're involving, informing, and educating our patients throughout the course of their care. So the challenge becomes, how do we do that if we can't communicate well with our patients?
Communication is two-way. So when the individual with aphasia needs help, that's our area to step in and help, like putting pieces of a puzzle together. So our goal today is to help to put the pieces of puzzle together for you and give you strategies that you can implement seamlessly at work. Supported conversation for adults with aphasia, or SCA for short, is a method of adapted communication developed by the Aphasia Institute of North York. So it's termed supported conversation for adults with aphasia, and SCA increases communicative access to your services and increases the efficiency and effectiveness of your service. So we really want to make a point here that while it seems like it could be more daunting, more effort, much longer time to actually put in SCA strategies into what you're already doing, it is the opposite. If you have a bit more time to do this, but you're more effective in communicating your message and helping your patient to be able to communicate effectively with you, and that exchange, you're going to be way ahead. You're going to not need to repeat yourself several times. You're going to have the information verified. It's going to be more accurate, and you will be able to move through more of what you're trying to do. And whether it's a rehab session or treatment with the patient, it will be more effective. So supported conversation for adults with aphasia is for communicating with individuals who have expressive or receptive aphasia. These are patients who know more than they're able to say. And SCA is a kit, tools and resources to improve communication and increase access to services. So getting started, when you're having an interaction with someone who has aphasia, you want to reduce distractions. That's both visual and auditory. So if you're going into a patient's room and they're playing music, or they're on an iPad, or if you need to pull a curtain or you need to turn off devices, if it's noisy and you need to take them to a more quiet area if you're able to, good lighting is really important. Having the individual with their glasses if they need them, or hearing aids if they have those. And you know what, if you have glasses and you should have your hearing aids in, go get them because you need them too. Pen and paper is really helpful. A whiteboard is also great, but we'll talk about the advantages of pen and paper too. Be patient. So this does take patience and time, and being kind to yourself, as well as kind about that. Patience is the critical strategy here. Be at eye level. If the individual is sitting down, sit down, or if you have good knees, kneel. If they're standing, stand. And check yourself at the door. So we describe this as an inpatient setting where hustling and bustling, everybody's caseload is so busy, where we have a heavy workload. And there were times in upstairs on the rehab unit where I would literally be speed walking to the patient's room, therapy materials in hand, planning again what I was going to do. But then I stop at the door, I take a breath or two, and I put myself in the moment for being there for the patient. And that time with the patient is the patient time. I put aside what everything else is going on in my very busy brain, and I'm calm, cool, and completely on the exterior collected. And then I can go in, and then the patient feels more at ease. They don't feel stressed. They don't see that I'm rushed, and it makes a much more effective session or visit or care if I was doing care as a nurse. Expressive aphasia. So for helping to get the information out, again, patience, this is sort of a drive home message. Providing pen and paper is great. So a whiteboard is also good, but if you need to go back to verify information, or the individual wants to point to something that was written previously to go back to a point or verify a point, it is helpful to have it written down. Technology now, there's like boogie boards and there's other things, but having it actually able to go back to is really important. Providing pictures for them to point to, writing down keywords for them to point to say, so they can point, or it can help to spur them to be able to verbalize it if they see it. Asking yes, no, or choice questions, and that can be with support. They might use a gesture for yes or no's, or when they're unsure. Could be a head nod or head shake. It could be a board with yes, no. We'll show you a couple of those in the presentation. Give them time to respond. And it can feel awkward to have silence, because often in healthcare, we don't do well with silence. We want to fill in the silence, but it does take a little bit of time. It could take 5-10 seconds for a patient to be able to formulate what they want to say, and it may not be accurate when they do. But when they have more time, it will be more accurate, closer to it, or more approximate. Encourage them to draw, gesture, point, reinforcing that you know that they know, and you know it's hard for them to express what they want to say. And don't jump in unless the individual wants you to. So I'm just going to drop screen share for a second. So this came up in a session even this morning with a new patient, where the lovely gentleman's wife said, I have a question. Should I jump in? Should I fill in the word for him? And so it really goes back to what the patient wants. So we had a discussion with the gentleman, and he said, sometimes. So the strategy that Shannon and I often give patients is, if the patient wants help, this gesture of just reaching for it, it doesn't have to be so grandiose, it can just be a little one, just like to jump in. And then the caregiver or the team, we know when the patient wants you to jump in. Some patients don't want you to ever jump in because they want to work through it, and some don't want that extra stress that they feel is stressful to work through it, and they want help. So ask the patient if there's a speech therapist on your unit. They may have already had that conversation, and you can go to the speech therapist for that information. Shanna's better clicking than I am. Okay, so this is Michelle again. We're going to show, this is about a 2.5-minute clip of a conversation where she's talking about when she was having so much difficulty speaking upstairs, strategies that were used on the floor. As you watch this, if you can just take mental note of some of the strategies that were used. For this sake, we'll verbally summarize them here for this video, but if you can just take mental note of the strategies.
So, Michelle, you're such an amazing advocate for how we can improve what we do working in healthcare. You've told us some of your highs and lows of being a patient with your experience.
Yes.
And the best part of your experience was when people helped to more effectively communicate with you.
Yes.
And you said some of the stuff of what helped you. Can you tell us a little bit more about when someone gives you extra time, how that makes you feel?
There was a couple that, well, there was more, but probably they were really good, that they would sit and talk to me and say, okay, so let's see, what do you need? Or what do you see? What do you want to say? What do you want? Like anything that need, it was really, to me, it was hard, and she helped. All of them.
Would they write some stuff down for you?
Yes.
Like give you choices?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't all yes, no questions.
No,
They gave you
it was
choices?
all the time.
Oh, good.
It was all on time.
Did you have a communication book when you were there, like pictures?
Yes, and it was really good, and it was just like, I can't even imagine, like it was so good that I could see what I need, because I can see it, but I can't write it. And
at the time, reading wasn't a super strength at
Right.
the time. So we were, in the earlier days, we saw in the notes upstairs, they were using pictures with the
Yes.
word
That's right.
to work on it.
And I just think it's crazy. They were just amazing. They were sitting there with me to say, like,
So, Michelle, you're such an amazing advocate.
Sorry, you don't need to see it twice today. Okay, so strategies that were used in that. So we will have you participate in talking about strategies on the next video. But for this one, I will say I was sitting, so eye level, good eye contact. The lights are on in the therapy room. The door is closed. Michelle, with her expressive aphasia, doesn't need to read my keywords to help her understand what I'm saying, but we use them so that she can verify her responses. So she can point to it. If she's saying yes, she can be sure that what she's saying yes is what we're actually talking about. And when she can refer back to it. She also gestures well. And am I missing anything off the top of my head here? Okay. So verifying, going over and making sure that I was understanding her message right. So that was an example for just a clip of an example of someone with expressive aphasia. It is more challenging when we have a patient who also has receptive aphasia, where they have difficulty understanding the meaning of the words that you are saying to them. These individuals typically will also have difficulty understanding the accuracy of what they have verbalized. So even so if they say yes and they meant no, they may not catch that. Supportive conversation is really critical for these patients to be able to help get the information in, often also get the information out and to verify along the way. A slowed rate with an adult tone is very important. So a slow rate is about the rate that I'm speaking now on the presentation. It is not speaking like this. And the adult tone would be like I'm speaking in the presentation. We want to make sure that family members don't lovingly but mistakenly talk with Mother Ease. We're like, oh, having such a good day today. If that happens with your patients, with their loved ones, please model that you're using a slowed adult rate, but also you will likely need to educate them about not doing what's called Mother Ease, because that does not make any adult with aphasia feel competent at all if someone is speaking to them as if they are a toddler. Short and simple sentences, and by short, it's just so that there's gaps in between so that they can process the meaning of what they are hearing. And simple sentences means not complex grammar. Simple sentence structure. Expressive intonation, but not over the top. So hopefully Shannon and I are using expressive intonation today, but we're not being over the top. Use nouns for names and places. So for example, I wouldn't say, is she picking you up out there after? I would say, is your daughter, and I might say, is your daughter Steph picking you up after outside the building? So I'm using nouns. Gesture, point to items, use facial expressions to help, show pictures, write down keywords, and really observe your patient. If they're not understanding, there usually will be a way to kind of tell that they just might not be quite as engaged. It might be their eye contact's a little bit less, or they just look a little bit like they're not following. That said, of course, we have patients that mask that really well because they want to show that they understand everything, even though they are not. But it is a tip to observe your patient. So this is a sample of a session with Margaret, who again is given her informed consent to share her story, expressive and receptive aphasia. And this is a longer clip. So this is about 5 minutes. So if, as you're watching it, you could please, if you'd like, to share in chat some of the strategies that you're seeing take place, and we'll just go over them really quickly after.
Yes. I'm excited about your upcoming trip you were telling me about.
I love that.
So when is it you're going?
We're going.
So when? Are you going November or December?
3rd.
Can you show me here? November, December?
3rd.
You're going in December.
Yes.
Okay, and is it early in the month? Middle or over Christmas?
I'm not sure, but I think it's this one.
In the middle?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. And remind me on the map here, where is it that you're going? It's in the US, right?
Yes, we're going to, where do we live? It's back here somewhere.
So there's Mexico, United States.
You'll have to tell me because I don't know.
We've got, you're going on the East Coast, right?
So usually about there.
Right there.
Well, I don't, where do we look at?
So let's see, there's Jacksonville, Orlando, Miami.
I'm not sure.
Are you going like Disney?
Yes.
Okay, Disney area. So Orlando here.
Right, that's right.
So Orlando. Okay, that's cool.
Yes.
And are you doing Disney or SeaWorld?
We're going to the Horseshoes.
Or the other one I know is.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's this one. That's the one I meant.
Lego?
Yes.
So tongue up for that one. Lego.
Lair.
You got the L. Good.
Oh, good.
Legoland.
Good. Yes.
You're so lucky.
I'm very looking and as hoping that I'm okay for everybody to go.
I'm hoping you're okay
Yes,
too.
I do too.
Well, you were given permission
That's true.
to go from the
That's
doctor.
right.
Yay.
So we'll be okay.
So they gave you thumbs up for flying,
That's right.
Good.
Yes.
and you're gonna go with your daughter
Yes.
and her husband.
Yes.
Okay. And how many grandchildren? Are you going with
There's
2
four.
or 4?
4 more out of them. The little ones.
So is it over here 2 or 4 of the
These
kids?
ones.
2. So
Yeah, 3 of
okay,
them.
so your daughter's kids. So Steph's
Yes.
kids?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. And if you remind me their ages, 9.
4.
So 9.
Finn.
Okay, and
And 4 sick. C.
is it 5 or
Yeah.
6?
No, it's her.
5 years old?
Yes.
So 9 and 5. And the girl is 9, right?
Or are they? Yeah.
So 9 and 5. They're gonna love Legoland.
Oh, they will love her. She loves to see what we can see.
Do you like doing rides?
Always. Yes.
Do you like rides?
Yes. Oh, no.
Okay. So
Sorry, no.
So you're no for rides, but
no.
the food is really good there.
That would be okay.
And I think you would appreciate the gardens.
Yes, that would be very nice.
And the best part is the smiles on the
Yes,
kids.
That's the best time for all of them.
Yeah, they will.
That's why we like them, to see them.
That's
Yes,
good.
to see them.
That's really exciting. I'm so
Yes.
happy you're going.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
And how many days are you going? Is it like 2, 3, 4?
There will be sea time.
Is it a week?
Yes.
You're going for a whole week.
We are. We're using 2 stiffs, 2 little things
Okay.
that said yes, but we need 2 of. They said, okay, we'll do that and that. We're gonna do.
So 2 certificates or something
Yes,
together?
that's how it will turn.
Okay, it's like 2 mini breaks.
That's right.
Okay, so you're combining that for a whole week.
Yes.
Okay, that's
It will
exciting.
be.
Yay.
They love it.
And you like the weather to be hot?
Very. I hope so. That's the way I like it.
Okay, good.
Yes.
That's smart. And I heard a rumor you told me last week you do not like sunscreen.
No, I do not. I don't use it.
So you wear a big hat.
I got a really good, but I will not use that in me.
You won't use sunscreen?
I will not do it.
But long sleeves then?
Yes, I
Okay.
have a little thing that I have that it looks just like me, that I usually have this stuff. It's really, really
So it protects from the sun?
Yes.
Okay, and then of course a hat.
that is good.
Okay, so you're gonna wear the hat
yes.
and the sun shirt?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
good. That'll make your
And I
daughter
will-
happy too.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm excited about.
Okay, so in the chat, we have, okay, so verifying responses, use of lots of body language, gestures, using pictures, the map, yeah, which is on an iPad. iPads are so good for our profession, thank heavens. Using nouns, yes. Different methods, technology, writing down adult tone of voice. So rate adult tone, writing down keywords, offering choices. Excellent. Yes, great. Thank you everybody who contributed there. That's really good. I'm also sitting, eye contact. If you notice there too, I had a wrong information about Margaret liking rides like roller coasters, but being able to see it, then she realized that she had given the wrong information and was able to verify and correct her, well, not verify, but correct her answer for going forward. So this is a pretty standard example of a more challenging, where there's expressive and receptive. Challenging is not the best word. There's more complex in what we do as the supported conversation.
Okay. So it is very important that we acknowledge competence. So if there's one thing we really want to emphasize and drive home today, it's this. Speaking naturally in an adult tone, as Shannon mentioned, with normal volume. So that's something that a lot of patients that Shannon and I have worked with have shared with us, that sometimes having aphasia means when people don't understand exactly what aphasia is, they think that raising their voice and speaking louder and almost to the point of shouting sometimes is what will help the person understand. And unless the patient is also hard of hearing, there's no need to raise your volume. Acknowledging frustrations and fears of being perceived as incompetent. So again, that goes back to just that little phrase, I know you know, that can convey so much. When necessary, openly acknowledging when you need to contact a caregiver and obtaining consent from the patient to do so. So an example might be if a patient has started a new medication and they want to communicate that to you, they want to tell you the name of the medication, but they're not able to access that. They're not able to tell you, they're trying. You can ask the patient, is it okay if I ask your daughter for the name of the medication? So just obtaining that consent is important. Addressing the patient directly with eye contact, even when caregivers are present. So we'll talk about that a little more in the next slide. Sharing responsibility for any communication breakdowns. So again, communication is two ways. So if there is a breakdown, we are just as responsible as the patient. And so using humor can really help there. Sometimes just kind of saying, you know what, I'm so sorry, I'm just not getting it. Integrating supportive communication techniques into natural conversation can be really helpful. So if you know you're going to be working with a patient with aphasia, coming prepared with materials that are related to the information that you're going to be discussing can make it more seamless and just make the interaction flow a little better. So talking to the patient, not about them. So even if you need to direct some information to a family member or caregiver, you can still talk to the individual with aphasia. So using eye contact with the patient, looking at them, using their name. So instead of talking about them as if they're not there, sometimes that happens even with the best of intentions. And so looking at the patient, you could be saying, you know, Henry, you have come so far in your physiotherapy, you are now able to walk 100 meters. So even though some of that information is being taken in by the caregiver, you're still delivering the message to the patient, and that can really mean a lot. Here's just an example of a resource from the Aphasia Institute. So this would be for busy doctors. It gives you some suggestions for gestures that you can use as you're talking that can help get the information across, and some pictographs and some phrasing that you can use. So with SCA, really trying whatever works, being creative. We have so many different options for materials that we could use. It might be a bit of trial and error, but there are so many different things that can help. So examples are alphabet boards, pain scales. So as you can see there in the top right corner, pointing to items in the room, using pen and paper, as we've mentioned. Try drawing a picture, even if you're not a good drawer, that's okay. You can use that as a bit of humor too. Having the patient show you. So we find smartphones are a godsend. They're amazing. They're so helpful with patients because they can do things like, I think Shannon the other day with Michelle, as you saw in the video, Michelle, she was trying to get across the name of a coworker, I think you said, and she used her Apple smartwatch and was able to just go to her contacts and get the name that way. We can use phones for photos, family photos, Googling things. So we have endless options there. And also apps. So this is just an example of an app that can support communication. It's called Speech Assistant. It's about $25, so not too expensive. So this might be something that would be helpful for patients. It has phrases that are pre-programmed, common phrases, but you can actually personalize it, add your own phrases, add names, family names, pictures, and you can also, there's a text to speech option. So if the patient is able to type a couple of things, they can type it and it will speak the words out loud. So this is just another example of something you could use. Going back to verifying, making sure that you understood the message. So we saw how important that was in the video with Margaret. Where at first the question was, oh, do you like rides? And she said, yeah. And until Shannon wrote that down, that's what clarified the message for her. And then she was like, oh, no, I would never So some ways that you can verify are reflecting, so repeating the patient's message back. You could rephrase it. Expanding, so you can add on what you think the individual might be trying to say. Just keeping in mind it's not always successful, but it's worth trying. Summarizing, so pulling things together at the end of a longer discussion just to make sure that you got the gist of what they were saying. And another way to verify, if you're asking a yes/no question, you could rephrase the question in a different way. So for example, if you were saying, would you like to go back to your room? You could phrase it another way, saying, would you like to stay here? So it'll give you an indication if there was a bit of a communication breakdown with their yes and no's. Just to review the benefits of SCA for patients, just feeling valued, respected, engaged, and involved in their own care. So that's essential. For staff, it improves our quality of work life and satisfaction. It improves the efficiency and effectiveness of our interactions and our sharing of information with patients. And it helps build a stronger rapport with our patients.
And with that too, another benefit is as they see the staff doing that with individuals with aphasia, family members also pick up those strategies as much as we're teaching them as well. But even having nursing or chaplaincy, social work, whatever your profession is, also using those strategies just is more reinforcement that the strategies are effective and that they can use these at home, and it helps them to be encouraged to try them and use them at home. However, that said, it does not always work. So even in our day and with Caroline, our fabulous CDA, it doesn't always work. There are still communication breakdowns, but we share in that and we acknowledge the frustration that the patient has. So we might say something like, I know you really want to tell me that. I'm sorry, I'm not getting everything you're trying to express to me. Encourage techniques that help reduce anxiety for the individual. For some patients, it's breathing, some it's mindfulness, some is pausing, retrying. If you are in a situation where you need to leave, acknowledge that you're sorry to leave it with this not communicated. You will come back. If you're able to, then you would say that and then go back. So if you say you're coming back, go back. If we're in session, we might just park that topic and actually write it down and then make sure to come back to it at the end. This is just a 40-second video of Michelle just talking about one of her strategies, and it's just to watch.
It was just great.
So extra time was helpful.
It
so
was,
you felt, is it helpful when you feel more relaxed? Do you find that helpful?
I get stressed. So yes. So before I need to relax, then I get all stressed. So it's all.
And how do you relax a little bit?
Now I talk, I breathe, and that's what we did.
And that is a very effective strategy for you. Yeah, you've come so very far. And you're helping to educate many people about how.
I was just thanking her for being on the video.
It was just great.
So extra.
Transitioning slides. All right. That's just another way to look at it. This will be in your handout. We're going to skip it because we're getting short on time. Okay.
So in this age, there's a lot of people that do virtual teletherapy, virtual calls. And some of these things will be helpful to keep in mind if you're doing a video call with a person with aphasia. Making sure the environment, again, is set up appropriately. So having good audio, video, lighting is ideal. Reducing background noise for both yourself and the patient. And we find that laptops and computers are most ideal for screen size. So if that can be encouraged, because phones and iPads are a smaller screen. And if you're sharing things like text or pictures, if they're tiny, that will make it more difficult. Ahead of time, if you're able to, determine the level of support that will be required. So you can ask the patient or caregiver what will be helpful for the call. You can use gestures just like you do in person. You can use it on the video. So you can use a thumbs up, thumbs down type of gesture. For example, if the call wasn't working and you needed to call them to help, you could kind of use the gesture for telephone. And using yes, no, wrong track visual can be helpful as well. And there you see a picture of Caroline, our communicative disorders assistant, doing a virtual therapy session with Michelle. And there is the yes, no, wrong track visual. So you have a copy of that if you want to print it. It could be used on your end of the video call. It could be used on the patient's end to point to and verify responses. And some more tips, you can use screen sharing. I use that all the time on my video calls. So does Shannon. Google Images are a great resource. So if you're talking about a product or you're talking about a recommendation you have, you could look up a Google image, share the screen, and then the patient can see it that way. You can use written supports just as you would in person, but a Word document can actually be used. So you could be writing down keywords on a Word document and share your screen for them to see. Reviewing and summarizing the content of your call, and if you are able to, providing an email summary with written instructions, if possible, that will really help with the understanding piece.
Okay,
So, go ahead. Oh. So this is our true false questions that we asked at the beginning. I think we won't re-poll because you guys actually did quite well with these, but just to review. My patient with aphasia did what I asked, but that does not mean they understood what I said. They answered yes, but that doesn't mean they meant yes. I need to verify that. And aphasia affects much more than communication. It affects relationships, self-esteem, identity, accessing healthcare, and so much more.
And resources, the Aphasia Institute has created professional specific resources, so you can go online to their website, and they're all across a whole lot of different disciplines. As well, they have the Talking About series, such as for diabetes, continence care, falls prevention, and more. So it's worth looking at what they have to help support. And it, again, like the sheet Shanna had shown you, it suggests gestures as well as things that you can say. They also have a free introduction to SCA e-learning module, which we recommend as well. So you can use that link.
And these are just some resources for more in-depth neuroanatomy and neurophysiology of speech and language if you were curious and wanted to learn a little bit more about that. There's videos, podcasts, and articles. And there's our references. And we have a code at the end of our presentation, so we'll just leave that up. But yeah, did you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so Tina, we can open it up to questions. That is the end. Thank you for joining. And that's Caroline, Shannon, and I doing a photo thing that we did for Instagram for the hospital.
If you can't tell, it's supposed to say SLP.
We'll try it again next year.
We can fine tune it a little bit. And then here is our
Tina, we're not hearing you.
Yeah, Tina, we're not hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Rhonda.
Yes.
So if you can, I'll say what I think Tina's saying, and she can correct me if I'm wrong. So certainly, if you want to use the QR code, or you can click on the link that's in the chat to complete the evaluation, please do so. That will be very helpful. Tina has also included the link to our next webinar, which again, Tina's going to ask me to remember really well, and I have not printed. Can you speak, Tina? Can we hear you? No, we're not hearing you, Tina. So I don't know if it's video as we're going. I know it's looking at nutrition. Let me pull up so I know I have it. Sorry, guys, I wasn't anticipating this.
Tina, do you want to put it in chat? Oh, there you go. Try this link. Okay, and if anybody has any questions, as Tina doesn't have her audio there, if you want to type them out, we have a whole 2 minutes to answer questions if you would like them.
There's a question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, oh, sorry, I had it and now it's gone. Go ahead. You answer the question and I'll get there as I'm not sure what I'm doing here.
Will the handouts be emailed? Yes. We will be providing a PDF of this over to Tina, who will send it out with the evaluations of the presentation tomorrow. So you will receive it. You will receive it.
And so our next webinar series, Stroke 101, is the building blocks of good nutrition and hydration post-stroke on November the 16th at 2 o'clock. So we have 3 dietitians who will talk about the importance of screening for nutrition and hydration, identify common screening tools used and know when to reassess and refer to registered dietitian, identify patients with stroke at risk for malnutrition, the sequelae of malnutrition, and describe the various diets, textures, alternative feedings commonly, and barriers to intake.
We have a question. Can we go ahead and answer it just before?
Yes, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
From Brittany, are there different strategies that we would implement with individuals who experience apraxia of speech versus aphasia? So typically, do you want me to just jump in? Sure. Okay. Well, typically with apraxia, there's strong auditory comprehension. So we would be, so Margaret has actually apraxia as well. So I'm cueing her for the initial sound. There's apps that we use to help them to be able to consciously place their lips and tongue in the proper position for that initial sound. And we use a lot of natural prosody when we're training for like repetition of functional phrases, saying them with us, because natural flow and natural prosody is really important for apraxia to help with phrases and longer words. But we wouldn't be using so much the auditory comprehension strategies as well as really helping them with the expressive strategies.
Yeah, so the expressive strategies that we talked about today will still be helpful. So having them write down keywords, if they're having a hard time saying it, they can often write it down. Still being able to point to pictures, use gestures. So a lot of those will still be relevant for apraxia.
Okay, let's see if there are any other.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. I had a bit of a miracle recovery from my expressive aphasia, as was noted. Really want to make sure that we thank you. There was a comment from Tatiana to say we're so fortunate to have colleagues like Shanna and Shannon who are always willing to support and provide their recommendations and expertise for our patients and us. Team members, thank you so much for all you do. So wanted to make sure that you guys saw that.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Tatiana, worker on.
And Tina, there was just a comment that the link to the video is not, the link to the evaluation form is not working. It looks like
I
all
did
counted is having
Oh,
maintenance. So I don't know
okay.
if that will affect the QR code it also. And so I was just going to say that perhaps that it may be a glitch from all
Yes, the
counted.
website is down, and so it's not the link itself, it's actually the website. So tomorrow you will receive an email from Zoom, and it will have the link to the recording and a link to the evaluation. And we would really appreciate if you would fill that out and support our speakers and help us know what works well in our webinars. And if you did not see it in the chat, and we do have a registration, and I think that link should work because it's a Zoom link to register for our next Stroke 101 on November 16th. But really, thank you again, Shannon and Shanna. That was excellent, and we're very grateful that you took the time. I know you're both very, very busy, and your workloads are heavy, and to take the time to share with us.
Everybody for joining.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Shanna, there's just